Excuse me, don't you think you should wait until the blood dries before you continue poking me?
All right. All right. For Judging Judy. All right.
Hello and welcome to the Judging Judy podcast, the only podcast that turns the tables on America's least favorite TV judge. Before we jump into today's episode, which comes to us all the way from back on September 9th, 1997, I just want to address my long-running, intermittent, and one-sided feud with that other podcast, Smartless. Recently, sallow-skinned, sourpuss, and with his gaze firmly pointed at his navel, Will Arnett joined Conan O'Brien to talk about Reese's. In the process, he rattled off a lengthy quote from someone else about parasocial relationships, and in the process proved that he and I actually have something in common: contempt for fans of Smartless. Before we hop into today's episode, I wanted to bring in my colleague, Professor Wikipedia, Doctorate in Yves Saint Laurent, to remind us what was going on in the world when this episode first aired back on September 9th, 1997. Young Young was born. Living in Atlanta from 1999 through 2024, Young Young is the father to Mei Lan, Shilon, Paul, twins Mei Lun and Mei Huan, and twins Ya Lun and Shi Lun. Young Young, of course, is a panda. The Dofton Direct Tour, Daft Punk's first concert tour, reached San Francisco's Fillmore Theater. In the spirit of their popular song Around the World, the tour globetrotted to such cities as London, Paris, Leeds, Toronto, and Miami. Sightseeing, however, was made difficult as the members of the band refused to take off those stupid giant helmets. Richie Ashburn died of a heart attack. The four-time MLB All-Star played from 1948 to 1962, most prominently as a member of the Philadelphia Phillies. After his retirement, Ashburn was a commentator for Phillies TV broadcasts for over 30 years. Ashburn's nicknames ranged from the innocuous The Tilden Flash to the curious Putt Putt, and finally, the very unfortunate Whitey. Thanks for the help, Professor Wikipedia. Now let's check out the New York Times crossword for 9997, care of xwords.com. The clue for 3 down is famed trial venue, and the answer is Nuremberg. Finally, let's check out the US box office for that day back in 1997. Number 1 was Air Force One, number 2, Men in Black, and number 3, The Lost World: Jurassic Park. The Lost World was the second installment in the Jurassic Park franchise and the original Jurassic Park trilogy. Despite having an actor named Pete Postlethwaite play a character named Roland Tembo, the movie received mixed reviews. None other than Roger Ebert had this to say about the movie back when it first came out. The problem with the movie is that the dinosaurs aren't allowed to be the stars. They're marvelously conceived and executed, but no attempt is made to understand their fearsomeness. Much of the plot hinges on mommy and daddy T-Rexes exhibiting parental feelings for their offspring. Despite a long career with over 8,000 reviews on his website covering such greats as We Need to Talk About Kevin, Revenge of the Nerds 2, Nerds in Paradise, and Get Rich or Die Trying, The Lost World is the only instance I can find where Ebert used the words mommy and daddy T-Rexes. Let's get to the teaser from today's episode.
Sonia is suing for the price of beauty.
It's just beauty. How much could it cost? $10?
A makeup procedure she says went horribly wrong.
No, we're getting an up-close of a gloved hand doing something to an eye. I don't know, but it kind of looks like she's getting a henna tattoo on her eyelid. How could that go wrong? Also, how could that go right?
My eyes are swollen. I look like a clown.
Clowns got lots of things going on, Sonia, but I've never seen a clown with swollen eyes. This isn't a clown problem. This is a Sonia problem. That's enough clowning around. Let's get to the courtroom.
Parties on Amin Shaboni versus Sharif Azad. Step forward.
Big shout out right away to Bailiff Bird for nailing these names, using up all the letters in the Scrabble pouch right away. Sonia, who's a lawyer, and Deborah, a secretary, are suing David, who is a salon owner, alleging that his tattoo makeup caused permanent damage. But if you think about it, isn't that exactly what a permanent tattoo is? Yeah, I mean, you want it to look good and not bad. But all the same, you're taking a little jackhammer to your skin. It's all damage.
You disgust me. Go on.
Well, this is an interesting case. I've sort of enjoyed reading about it.
Nothing like curling up on your couch and reading about permanent tattoo damage. A little bit of schadenfreude to perk you up. Judy, after openly wondering why two women with such beautiful faces would get permanent makeup, tries to sum up the case by saying that the two were dissatisfied with the services rendered. Sonia, however, while acknowledging Judy's vampiric and covetous commentary on her face, says that a stronger word than dissatisfied is warranted.
You're on more like disgusted.
Sonia explains that it's a cosmetic procedure to obviate the need to put on makeup each day. Instead, you always look made up.
Would have a lip liner on the outside of the lips, and for me, an eyeliner, which is just on the margin of the eyelids, upper and lower.
I was about to say that it doesn't look like Sonia's wearing any makeup at the moment, but then I realized I don't know what I'm talking about. Of the words Sonia said in that last clip, I definitely recognize the word lip. But beyond that, much of it went over my head. I can, however, with a little bit of authority, say that there is no current, obvious damage from whatever David did.
You have to look real close to notice it.
Judy asks, presumably for a friend, perhaps a TV judge who would like to spend less time in a makeup chair and more time betting on the ponies, how the procedure is done. Confusingly, Sonia, rather than David, gives the explanation. It's all a little unscientific. Then again, it's not like David's a doctor. He's just a guy with an impressively forceful mustache who tattoos people on the face.
It's a tattoo type of procedure where you take a needle with pinpoints and you take a color. I don't know what kind of exactly it's made out of, but it's a color that you apply with pin dots. And you connect the dots, you keep dotting it until you connect the dots and you see a line.
Oh, okay, so it's connect the dots, but with a needle and on someone's face. I think I could do that. I've connected some dots. I mean, I'm used to doing it in a coloring book and not on someone's face, but what could go wrong?
Absolutely nothing.
On your eyes.
Judy looks horrified, though I don't know if that's because she is horrified or if it's because she's got that crappy old-fangled makeup that isn't tattooed directly onto her face. A couple of needles and she'd go from horrified to horrifying, which is definitely an upgrade. Answering Judy's question about research she did before getting facial tattoos, Sonia says she'd previously worked in the medical field and knew people who got permanent makeup and presumably turned out fine. She even knows people who perform the procedure, which makes you wonder why she didn't go to them instead of David.
And it's relatively safe. We never heard any bad stories, and we talked and we decided we'd go together.
They didn't find David by word of mouth, though, and I'm just trying to connect the dots. That would have been the most logical route. Instead, David was Brenda's suggestion.
Why? Brenda,
because it was near my house.
Now, don't be too swift to condemn Brenda. We've all made decisions based on geographic proximity to home, where we shop or where we eat. Plus, maybe Brenda was thinking that there was a chance something could go wrong. There was a chance that she could permanently be maimed. And if that happens, God forbid, she'd prefer to be closer to home so that fewer people can see her mangled cephalopod face before scurrying back indoors. Brenda says she was also swayed by David's advertising. So the next time you say marketing isn't worth it, just remember this. Deborah Schiavone got her face mutilated back in 1997 by David, all because she saw a bus stop ad that said, permanent makeup you'll never forget or your next pizza is free.
That's a promise.
Just a second. The reason you didn't answer so fast is because as you were saying it, it sounded foolish, right?
Yeah, that, but also her mouth had been permanently tattooed shut, so it took a moment for her to pry her lips apart and speak.
Believe me, I know you're on. Suffered for an hour on his table, I know.
Okay.
Sure, but at least it wasn't a long ride back to Deborah's place. The Chiron says Sonia's from Reseda. Now imagine if David's office had been in, I don't know, Sylmar, and Sonia had been forced, in tears, to take the 118 West, to the 405 South, to the Haskell Avenue exit, and then all the way down Sherman Avenue just to get home. That's at least a half hour without traffic. Now, if Sonia had decided to get this thing done on a Wednesday at 3:30, at least an hour. Most of it stop and go, which, even without a decimated face, everyone knows stop and go is the most painful kind of traffic. Now, if David had been Echo Park, that's a whole nother story.
Well, the less said about that, the better.
Sonia explains that David's employee, Fatih, was the one doing the tattooing that day. David clarifies that she's an independent contractor, which is shorthand for saying you wash your hands of anyone she may or may not have permanently disfigured. Judy asks David if Sonia and Brenda knew that Fatih wasn't exactly an employee, but instead an ice pick wielding mercenary whose only satisfaction comes from scarring the faces of young Angelino sick of wasting away the hours in front of the mirror applying makeup.
Did they know that?
No,
What?
I paid
No,
him.
that's not what. Don't tell me what they know, David. Listen to me. I told you you would not escape me.
Wait, you told him he will not escape you? What does that mean? The case just started. When did you tell him he's not going to escape you? Judy, have you been preemptively haunting the dreams of your defendants, warning them not to lie to you, telling them that they won't be able to escape you? Because if you have, that's highly unethical. That's what got Freddy Krueger disbarred. It ended a really stellar career, too.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
David goes on to explain that Fati spoke with Brenda and Sonia, that she introduced herself and the procedure. Judy cuts David off to remind him that that wasn't her question.
I said it was your employee. Don't try to outwaltz me, sir.
While you're at it, don't think you'll get away with Lindy hopping in the courtroom either. Don't even think about Charlestoning, and I had better not see you Superman that hoe, or else this case is over.
She is an independent contractor. Are you trying to talk over me?
This may be semantics, but I think you're both trying to talk over each other. We endure all of this waltzing around for Judy to finally say her piece. He didn't tell her that Fati was an independent contractor, that she was presented as an employee, and that a customer walking into his store wouldn't assume otherwise. With that established, we move on to what actually happened. Sonia describes how Fati should have been making dots and then connecting them, but instead
He was taking the needle and making a line. And I was dripping in blood during the entire time. And I could see Brenda's expression. She's looking at me in horror like... So I asked Fati, excuse me, don't you think you should wait until the blood dries before you continue poking me?
kudos to Sonia. Because I don't know if I'd have had the wherewithal to provide notes to Fati while she was tattooing my eye. I also might have been worried that Fati wouldn't, maybe take my criticism to heart and perhaps make me bleed even more. What I'm trying to say is that when I'm getting my permanent makeup on, I don't say a word. I bleed in total silence. Sonia says that Fati said that was how the procedure was done, though that provided little comfort to Sonia. She says she was in a lot of pain, with tears streaming down her face. Not unlike if you dyed Niagara Falls red for Valentine's Day.
Tears were coming down. I stopped her again. I said, you know what? This doesn't seem right. How can you see what you're doing with all the blood and all the tearing? She goes, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry about it.
Make enough people cry blood and you can do a thing like this with your eyes closed. Maybe Fati did have her eyes closed. At this point, Fati again tried to reassure Sonia that she knew what she was doing.
She finished my eyes and she moved on to my lips.
Sonia says she should have just gotten up and left, and yep, she should have gotten up and left. They didn't have her restrained. If she thought that something had gone wrong, she shouldn't have allowed Fati to continue. Tattoo me once, shame on you. Tattoo me twice, shame on me.
You sound like my grandmother.
Judy looks exasperated as Sonia says Fati's treatment of her lips was much the same, that Fati had to go over her lips 4 times because the color wasn't taking.
As you can see, I look the same as I did, a week afterwards with no liner.
Well, sure, but now it just sounds like you're dissatisfied with the end result. If the color had taken, if you thought it had looked good, would you still be saying the thing was barbaric and left you in incredible pain, or would it have been worth it?
I'll never know.
We move on next to Brenda.
So you just watched the assault on your friend Sonia.
Yes.
And then you said, here I am. Me next.
Brenda says that she's gotten 3 tattoos. It's a way of saying that she knows how these things are supposed to be done. Which is all well and good, except
you watched what they did to her.
Maybe she thought that Sonia kind of got the practice try, that Fati needed to warm up before she, got a feel for things. The first one doesn't count, like a pancake, or like a child. You really only get good by number 2.
And they were very friendly to us and very cordial and very...
Wait, so this is a positive review? Bled from eyes, incredible pain, color didn't take, very friendly, highly recommended, especially if it's close to your house. 4.5 stars.
She proceeded. She did it once, the whole time around. Did not stop, but maybe once or twice to wipe it because I said, I was dripping blood all the way down my chin.
Look, that sounds terrible, and I wouldn't want that to happen to almost anyone, but you're only getting a refund if your blood runs to your collarbone. For the chin, I don't know, $2 off your next cheesy bread?
I'll take it.
I really wish we could see the ad that convinced Brenda this was the place to go. You'll bleed from your lips, but if it goes all the way down to your chin, your next tattoo is free. Judy asks if it's painful, and we get varying, conflicting answers from Sonia and Brenda, delivered at the exact same time. Brenda seems to be saying that they numbed her, but then Sonia says that it was painful and took 90 minutes for her and 45 minutes for Brenda. So then maybe the numbness wore off. It's unclear what they mean here. Anyway, later at home, Sonia called Fatih at David's salon to complain, to say that what she went through wasn't right.
My eyes are swollen, my lips I look like a clown.
As I'm wont to do, I'm looking at Wikipedia's list of clowns, and maybe she could have pulled off Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal, but even that's a stretch. All I'm saying is that the Ronald McDonalds, the Bozo the clowns of the world, they don't look like that because of a mistake. That takes practice, that takes intent, that takes work. If you want to be a clown, Sonia, and I'm getting the vibe that you do want to be a clown, you've got to earn it. You can't just get a shoddy permanent makeup job at David's Salon and Shoe Shine and Saddle Emporium on Van Owen in Tampa next to the Seas Candy Store and the shuttered Plasma Donation Center and think you're a clown? Sonia also declares that her friend Brenda looked like a clown, which seems like a mean and hurtful thing to say, unless she meant that Brenda looked like Krusty the Clown, who, if nothing else, was always very animated.
Hey.
Judy asks Sonia what she expected Fatih to do about it, assuming reasonably that Fatih, as an independent contractor, was in no position to own or operate a time machine anywhere within LA city limits. Sonia says that Fatih offered to do it again, but that Sonia refused.
Well, duh.
Then Sonia says she spoke to David and told him how terrible it all was.
He reassured me that, I'm sorry, come in, let my wife do it.
Either David and Fatih are completely tone deaf, which is a real possibility, of course, or Sonia didn't call just to say that the whole thing was barbaric and that she was butchered. She called because she wasn't happy and she wanted a refund. And maybe she was justified in wanting that refund. I don't know. But the pain and suffering and the inhumanity of it all, that all feels like an afterthought, appended to bolster an otherwise flimsy argument. Eventually, Sonia says David agreed to refund her credit card and call it even. $450 for her, $200 for Brenda. But presumably we're here because that didn't happen.
David, take a look at them. Did they have permanent color like they were supposed to?
David starts by explaining that at his salon, they've done this thing many times without an incident. He goes on to explain that when things wrapped up with Sonia and Brenda, he and his wife were there and neither saw a drop of blood on their faces.
That's a good thing.
But I feel like we're really mixing up two different cases here. Are they suing because he's an evil monster or because his non-employee did a crappy job?
And as you see, they have signed a contract that it said this procedure might cause discomfort or pain, and it needs follow-up procedure.
Judy looks through the contract with all the seriousness of anyone who's ever accepted an end-user license agreement to install anything. In fact, she gives it as careful a read as I'm sure Brenda and Sonia did before they got numbed up for their face painting. While Judy pretends to read it, Sonia concedes that David told them they would need a minor touch-up after the first go-around.
But what needs to be done is a complete redo, as if nothing was done.
I'm still confused. What do you want? Why are we here? Why do some people call them flapjacks and other people call them shortcakes?
He offered me to come back and do it again. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous for me to go and lay on his lousy table to bleed for an hour and a half.
Now you don't like the table? Look, if you think the tables at a salon in Sylmar, or in Chatsworth, or in San Bernardino are nicer, then fine, go there. But don't come complaining to me when you get stuck for 6 hours in one of those 3 county spanning police chases staged by KTLA to boost the ratings.
You know what I'm talking about.
Despite my accusations, Judy says she read the contract that Sonia and Brenda signed.
It says the undersigned client, that's them, agrees to follow the aftercare instructions and agrees that any touch-up work needed due to the undersigned's negligence, that's their negligence, shall be done at the undersigned's expense.
This is all very interesting, but I still don't know what it is the undersigned want. Are they saying they don't want to pay for the second procedure? I'm willing to accept it's just me. Maybe it's my fault I'm so confused. Maybe I got permanent makeup on my brain.
Well, they don't want follow-up, sir.
Okay, perfect. Let's do it this way. Let's cross out all of the things they don't want. First up, no follow-up. They don't want that. Next up, I'm gonna guess maybe 6-pack of cherry Coke. Do they want the cherry Coke or not?
Hold on a second, I'm thinking.
Judy confirms the amounts of the suit with Brenda and Sonia, But then Sonia decides that that's not enough.
I think we're entitled to more than what was paid because of the pain and suffering that they inflicted on us.
Pain and suffering you were warned about and willingly asked for more of. Now, what about the cherry coke? Judy responds to Brenda's claim by explaining that there is something called contributory negligence, which, nope, I just looked it up. It's not a song by REM.
Based on the story that you told me and the apparent intelligence of both of you two women, I think that you're far more than 20% responsible for your own pain and suffering.
Judy goes on to say that the two of them knew it was supposed to be a dotting procedure, but that they went along with it even as Fatih instead went directly across, drawing lines across their faces.
Oh!
Wait, that's what went wrong. It's only now that I understand that that's why they say Fatih botched it. Now I get it, kind of. Excuse me, if this has been obvious to you, clearly you're smarter than I am. Clearly you didn't get your brain tattooed. That Sonia with blood running down her face didn't get up off the table and demand Fatih get away from her, Judy says, indicates some level of responsibility for what eventually happened.
If she let him do the other way, let him do your mouth. And you watched the whole thing. And when she hopped up, you sat down.
Judy says that they're entitled to get their money back, and that if they want to do this to themselves again, it's their choice. But it doesn't look like she'll be booking a spot with Fatih anytime soon.
I don't think that there's any big deal in the morning keeping a tube of lipstick on the side of your table. You want to look nice when you go in and brush your teeth? Put a little lipstick on.
I know when I go to brush my teeth in the morning, I'm looking for any way I can to impress that Crest logo. Judy reminds Sonia and Deborah that they will age, and that with aging, their faces will change, before ruling in their favor for $650. $450 for Sonia and $200 for Brenda, which is exactly what David supposedly offered. This just feels like a win for David. In his closing words, David says that he feels like the two of them were looking for any opportunity to make a buck. Sonia and Deborah scoff at this. I guess we just won't see them kiss and make up. With case number 2, we have Bonnie, a secretary, suing her coworker Suzanne. Both of them work at Los Alamitos Racetrack, which I've always called the pride of Cypress, California, especially if you're into the thrill of the race. And dead horses. 18 of them died there in 2024.
Claiming Suzanne refused to pay for 4 wedding dresses that took her 165 hours to make.
I don't know, maybe don't trust your colleague who's getting 4 simultaneous marriages? I don't mean to call out polyamorous people, but that's a pretty big red flag right off the bat.
Look, I'm sorry if you misunderstood something.
Bonnie has a bunch of paperwork on the desk in front of her, plentiful but altogether tidy. Serial bride Suzanne has a manila envelope, a shoebox, and most prominently, a pair of forest green high heels. This is not the first time I've seen this. Back in episode 5, our plaintiff had heels on her desk before a rebuke from Judy. That plaintiff won. We'll see if heels on the desk continue to be a good luck charm. Suzanne, knowing Bonnie sewed in her spare time, approached her colleague asking if Bonnie could make 4 bridesmaid dresses, which I assume are dresses one wears to watch the movie Bridesmaids. Why Suzanne needed to wear 4 dresses to watch a movie that almost certainly hadn't even been written yet and wouldn't be released for another 14 years is confounding. Though I suppose we may have incidentally found Kristen Wiig's biggest fan.
Hey, look, if I was drunk, would I be able to do this?
Bonnie's brought a total of 5 witnesses. One is a male about her age, sitting next to her. Next to him, the other 4 witnesses are standing remarkably still, straight in the back, wearing bright dresses in white, pink, and teal. None of them have heads or limbs. It's very unusual.
And she asked me what would I charge, and I told her I had no idea because I had never sewn for other people in this manner.
Bonnie explains that she had to ask around, but eventually told Suzanne that since she wasn't a professional sewer, an appropriate rate would be $10 an hour, which to me seems low, especially in California, even in 1997. She might not have been a professional, but it's still a skilled discipline. And what about expenses? According to Bonnie, Suzanne agreed to this rate because, yeah, that sounds like a good deal, especially if you don't care about the health and well-being of your colleague and don't truly value her labor. If, much like a racehorse at Los Alamitos, you just want to run Bonnie into the ground until she dies. Suzanne, however, says she did not agree to $10 an hour. She probably thought she could just pay 2 apples, 1 sugar cube, and nothing more.
When I approached her, I told her that I had been to a few seamstress that could do it for $120.
Suzanne says she posited this as a way for Bonnie to make extra money for her sewing equipment, a statement I don't understand and won't respond to, except to say that that's like telling someone to drive for Uber to make money to spend on their car. Suzanne said she was interested so long as Bonnie would undercut the $120 she had been quoted elsewhere. I'm assuming that's $120 a dress, although it's possible it's either $120 total or $120 an hour. Regardless, Suzanne says Bonnie agreed to this nebulous, ill-defined $120, though that's probably not how they referred to it in person at the time. However, the topic of $10 an hour did come up.
She said that that's what she was told to charge, being that she was a beginner.
I don't think you would have even approached a, quote, beginner to do these dresses at all, Suzanne.
I asked her if that would keep me under the 120, and she said yes, as long as I did all the legwork.
Legwork? I thought you wanted dresses, not pants. Bonnie says she thought that they had agreed to the $10 an hour and that was the only reason she agreed to do it. All told, it took Bonnie 165 hours to make the dresses. That's enough time to make 192,000 Pop-Tarts in a microwave, according to the alternate cooking instructions. It also means that if she had been working at an hourly rate and not spending the time putting Pop-Tarts into her microwave, Bonnie ought to have made $1,600. Now today, you can get an 8-count box of Pop-Tarts at Ralph's for $3.99 or 50 cents a tart. That means, adjusting for inflation, Bonnie would have been able to buy 6,474 Pop-Tarts if she had gotten the hourly rate she thought they had agreed upon.
Such is not the case here, however.
We finally learned that it was less than $120 each that Suzanne was looking for, which means that Bonnie thought she was getting about 4 times as much as Suzanne thought she was spending. Unfortunately for Suzanne, this surprise dropped at an unfortunate time.
The week before my wedding.
Then again, no matter what time the surprise dropped, it was also a bad time for Bonnie, right? She already did the labor. She spent the time, and now she's told her time is worth a quarter what she thought it was worth. You don't need to be a week out from saying I do to wish you had said I don't at the beginning of this whole thing. I mean, I bet Bonnie wishes she hadn't held her peace. I bet she didn't want to kiss the bride after this whole debacle.
She approached me and she says, that's way too much money.
Judy says that it sounds like too much money to her too. Me, I'm gonna have to defer because unlike Judy, I was buying very few custom handmade dresses back in 1997 from my colleagues at the racetrack. However, I did check average cost of a bridesmaid's dress in 1997.com. Unfortunately, it was an invalid URL. The same goes for .biz, .gov, and .xyz. However, according to the not.com, it's $128 today, or adjusting for inflation, $63 in 1997.
Not bad, not bad.
I didn't realize I had been working that many hours on it.
Even though she had been clocking in and out each day, getting that purple dinosaur with the sharp pointy teeth to chomp on her time card. Bonnie says she was just sewing, doing what she enjoyed doing. In that vein, she must have really gotten a lot of enjoyment out of it, roughly 6.7 days worth of enjoyment. Recognizing that the total was high, Bonnie says she offered to cut her rate in half. Although, of course, that would have meant she also would have had to cut the dresses in half, and that would mean the bridesmaids too would have had to be cut in half just to ensure that the dresses still fit properly. Oh no, never mind. I made that up. I made that last part up. Bonnie would never do that. Not to a person. Maybe to a horse. Maybe a racehorse.
To make the dresses a little over $200 a piece.
Correct.
When Suzanne balked, Bonnie says she told her colleague that she wouldn't get the dresses. While no doubt weighing the challenge that would come with trying to find an alternate venue that would permit an all-nude bridal party just days before her wedding, Suzanne says she refused to pay Bonnie for the dresses. As the big day approached, Suzanne says she tried to negotiate with Bonnie.
And asked her and tried to talk her down. We offered her $150 for each dress, over what we wanted to pay. And she would not accept that. She said, sorry, no money, no dresses.
Think of how tense this must have been at the racetrack with these colleagues battling it out. The working conditions must have been killer, especially for the horses, like the 3 that died in just one race day at the end of November 2025.
Okay, we get it.
Bonnie says she wasn't even offered $150 each. She says she was offered $150 for all 4. Suzanne says she has a witness to verify what she offered, and Judy says the whole thing might have been a misunderstanding. Which would certainly follow since an apparent misunderstanding got us here to begin with, considering Bonnie only made the dresses because she thought she was getting paid $250,000 in gold for each dress she made.
I guess you weren't paying attention.
I mean, I'm not crazy.
That's hearsay. Strike that from the record. Bonnie reiterates that she put a lot of time and effort into the dresses, which Judy accepts, while saying it's extraordinarily unlikely that Suzanne would have lowballed an offer for $150 for 4 dresses just days before her wedding. I guess that with time running short, it probably wouldn't have been a good time for Suzanne to play chicken. Then again, it wasn't a good time for Bonnie to play chicken either. If she doesn't sell these dresses, what's she going to do with them? It ought to have been better for her to get something for them rather than nothing out of principle. Maybe. Definitely maybe. Considering their impasse, Suzanne ended up having to buy new dresses elsewhere.
And how much were the new dresses that you bought?
$136
A piece.
a piece.
We get a glimpse of one of the dresses Suzanne bought, and speaking as an expert on dresses, it looks decidedly like something someone from Mad Men would have worn for a party celebrating the launch of a new Quaker Oats extra menthol cigarette, and not much like a bridesmaid dress in 1997. Judy tries to sum up the case thusly. Though there was an oral contract, neither agreed to the terms because they were operating under different impressions on the nature of the contract.
If there is no meeting of the minds, there is no contract.
Judy goes on to say that if there is no contract, Bonnie can't sue, even though Judy feels bad for all the time and effort it took to make the dresses. The judge also takes umbrage with whoever gave Bonnie the advice to charge an hourly rate.
Because when somebody goes to a seamstress, they are given a price for the product.
All of this is mildly interesting, including Judy saying that Bonnie as a novice took longer to make the dresses than a professional would have. But it's no comfort for Bonnie. In fact, it's kind of just laying it on even heavier. Not only is she foolish for setting an hourly rate, she's slower than a professional. She's a novice. And then once Judy gets around to finally saying it, she's not going to be paid for 165 hours of work.
So she would have been crazy to agree to pay you by the hour.
And so despite Bonnie's shocked, barn owl-like face, Judy dismisses the case. By way of parting words, we get this from someone who I assume is Bonnie's husband.
You just shafted her, and you know it.
And Bonnie herself has something to say.
I thought it was a slap in the face.
Wait, was it shafting or a slap? Because trust me, there is a big, big difference. Which is worse, shafting or slapping? Email judgingjudypod@gmail.com or comment to let me know. With all that squabbling behind us, we can finally get to the real reason you're here. It's my turn to judge Judy. I go by a highly imaginary methodology that comes down to this. Did Judy deliver justice? In her rulings, in her behavior, to the people in her court, to you and to me. If she did, she's innocent. If not, she's guilty. Today was a mixed bag. It wasn't Judy's best performance, but it certainly wasn't her worst. With that said, if today were just about case number 2, I'd say Judy was innocent, no question. While the nature of the case meant that Bonnie did a lot of work for nothing in return, something that's unfortunate, undoubtedly, the logic behind Judy's ruling was sound. She also didn't belittle or demean, she didn't make fun, she didn't shout or yell or roll her eyes like so many lucky number 7s in a slot machine. But things get a little less rosy when it comes to case number 2. It was too confusing. Yeah, I suppose the gory way the treatment was talked about made for good TV. It was fun to play up the blood and the pain from the plaintiffs along with their ditzy desire for a get-pretty-quick solution. But it wasn't until nearly the end of the case that I began to even understand what Sonia and Brenda thought actually went wrong. And I'm unconvinced they actually knew better than Fati how the whole thing was supposed to go. Look, I'm not even mad that Judy gave them their money back. That's what David offered them to begin with. I'm mad that we bounced from the supposedly terrible trauma they suffered, to their dissatisfaction about the outcome, to them being unwilling to return for the required follow-up treatment. It all felt messy. It all felt unfocused. There was a moving target. Anytime I thought I knew what the case was at hand, what the stakes were, the focus changed. It's on Judy to help us, as the audience, make sense of what's before her in court. And while Judy did no crime by her ruling, while she shouldn't be tarred and feathered for any specific thing she said or how she acted, she did us, the audience, wrong by giving us a muddy and ultimately unsatisfying case. And for that reason, today, Judy is guilty. That noise naturally means it's time for Hangman, but this isn't the Hangman you played when you were a kid when you really ought to have been learning if potable water was the good kind or the bad kind. This is Hangman with stakes. Today I'm putting nutrition facts up on the gallows. Believe it or not, you can look at most packaged food and instantly ascertain, to a certain degree of assuredness, what is or is not in that food and if it does or does not have certain nutrients. And if I win, things will remain that way. However, if I lose, it's gone. The calories, the sodium, the calcium. You won't know your saturated fat from your unsaturated fat. And insofar as you'll be able to tell, one serving size of America's least edible drink, it might be a gallon or it might be a thimble. Now, as always, I'm using hangmanwords.com, and this week I'm going back to their music words list. As a reminder, I can make 6 incorrect guesses, 6 letters that aren't in the word until I lose. And finally, this is an audio medium. Deal with it. All right, our answer is 9 letters, and as a reminder, it's from the Music Words playlist. I'm going to start with H for no particular reason, and that was a bad reason. There is no H. So let's try E. Well, also no E. So I have 4 more incorrect guesses, and I have none of my 9 letters. Let's go with another vowel. Let's go with A. No A. Doing great. So half of my incorrect guesses have been used up, and I have none of the letters. Let's try N. I do have an N, so the penultimate letter is N. So if you start from the back, it's blank N, blank blank, blank blank, blank 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 blank. Let's go with T. No T. So I have 2 more incorrect guesses. Let's go with I. There is an I, blank, 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 I, blank, and blank. S. 2 S's. I think it's scorpions. It is. C-O-R-P. Perfect, 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 perfect. You're welcome, everybody. I just saved nutrition facts. Now you can go back to ignoring them. With our final few precious moments together, I'd just like to share an out-of-context quote from Judge Judy. There's something lovely about being married to me. That's it. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, like, fornicate, and share, but whatever you do, please don't blame Fati if you end up looking like a clown.